My name is Vincent Everts, Trend Watcher, and I had one hell of a week. We had the Blockchain Innovation Conference and Money 2020. And it was yesterday. Look at this place. Look how beautiful it is. It was totally packed. We had more than 50 speakers. It's all online. You can basically see it. There's a line of all the speakers. Next week we'll have it nicely worked out so that you can look at every individual speaker. But there is already a point you can click on anything on this video and see it. But it was amazing. The theme was going from proof of concept to real practical solution, to going to production. And We.Trade, our host, we were at the Rabobank, introduced We.Trade, which went live today. 9 banks, big banks, German Deutsche Bank, the Rabobank, and also in everywhere in Europe they had very big partners work together to make a sort of a letter of credit system, which is very cheap and very efficient and made as a platform so that 6,000 banks can join. So that's really interesting. And he talked about the importance of blockchain for the banks, and if it doesn't, if it wouldn't ruin it for the banks. Then Everledger, and Everledger was fantastic. I mean, Leanne Kamp went into production 3 years ago, and now she has about 10% of the world's diamonds on the blockchain, and she's really changing that industry. She was the woman who had the biggest production platform also on Everledger, and it's really changing it. And she gave a fantastic presentation. Take a look at that. Then I must say I had a fantastic talk with Prins Constantijn of the Netherlands, who was talking about Startup Delta and about startups and about the European community and about innovation and how slow everything went and how the government should be moving faster. But he also had something really practical to say. So I thought he was really interesting. I mean, he shows up and normally he's an official guest, but we really went into depth. So it's a fantastic conversation. And then I had Alex Sharan. He came from India, and Alex, he's now my guest.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. And he gave a presentation. I mean, he has billions of people. 1.1 billion people have a digital identity. They have a very smart system, and I took him on the bike, and I took him also on the car. Yeah. So how did you like that?
That was a lot of fun, Vincent. Thank you for showing me your Tesla, allowing me to drive it.
Yeah, and look at that interview. Look at it. I mean, driving a Tesla, if you've never driven an automatic car, if you've never driven on the right side of the road, is an experience. But his presentation about how India is reforming the whole government by using blockchain is super interesting. Then we had an old selection of 7 ICOs, and they were all basically figured out by the commission, who basically figured out if these companies had a good team, and good plan, and good technology, and a useful function. And it was fantastic. And Tyken, who basically wants to give identity for everybody on the blockchain, that you are basically in charge of your own identity. He won. He's going to do an ICO. I think he will raise the money. And he has a responsibility to get the refugees, but also everybody of us, to give us an identity on the blockchain. He was inspirational. He was a guy who lived in Holland, who worked in Holland, is Syrian back nationality, and he lost his identity, and he sat in a refugee camp for 2 years. It's crazy. But now, never lose a good crisis. He now has made a company out of it, and he's really motivated to change that. Fantastic partners, the Rabo, the KPMG, IBM came with great solutions. Bitfury from the Ukraine, and it's now 400 people, the biggest blockchain company, and HP, who had basically a blockchain out of a box, were our partners. Thank you very much for making this possible. And my God, this team worked so hard for such a long time, and I'm so grateful that they did that. So thank you very much, guys. It was great. Okay, so that basically was our conference. Totally, everything is open. Please share the knowledge. It's all about going from proof of concept to production. And we had a fantastic speaker dinner on the 25th floor. And thank you again, Rabobank. It was so cool. It was such a great thing. So look at it. The whole video is live. Bruno, oh my. Next week I'm going to talk about the individual talks, but they were all really, every speaker had something very practical to say which was useful. But we were only 450 people. And 4,500 people came to look at Fintech. And it was a huge conference in Money 2020. It was unbelievable big. The whole RAI, the whole conference center was taken. And I had really interesting conversations. Like Revolut. They are a company, this Russian CEO, which I'm interviewing. They have 2 million people as an account. They grow with 10,000. They introduce every 3-week product. And he thinks that of the 20,000 banks, only Only maybe 10 will be left there. And he's a Russian, he's very quiet, very introvert, but what he says is extremely powerful. It's really interesting. So they offer all kinds of products all the time. Then open banking, really interesting, PSD2. It's already live in the UK, and we don't even have the laws passed. But what's interesting that the first application which uses PSD2 and open banking is Yolt from ING. So you take information from all the different bank accounts and integrate it in the dashboard. So including a demo, I'm giving a really interesting insight in how the British did it and how the Dutch did it, because the Dutch leave it to whatever, and the British says we're going to do it. We implement this standard. Then I talked to Petra Hielkema, who gave also a presentation. They just announced their vision of what they think of fintech, what they think of open banking, what they think of crypto, what they think of blockchain. They made a whole document about it, and I interviewed her about it. She's giving the vision. She's responsible for the payment system in the Netherlands. So really interesting interview. She's very open and honest. Then we had some innovations. And Peaks is a really nice, also a PSD2 application which can read information from all the bank accounts when the Dutch banks are ready, which they're not. And they're not ready because the finance the finance ministry hasn't passed the laws yet. Please, come on, do it. And you can invest money in a very, very simple and easy way. And it's including a demo. And it's a company by Rabo, but it's an independent company, and all the banks, they want to work with all the banks. Then, an innovation in 2018, SurePay. And what is SurePay? They check the bank number and the name, and they check before you send the money if it is really correct. And they work together with all the banks. Shouldn't that have done 20 years ago? But it happened in 2018. It's extremely useful, and at least it's happening. It's the first in the Netherlands. And then they tried to move it to Europe. Crazy that it's not there, but at least it's happening, and Rabobank took the initiative. I think that's really great. Just like also Rabobank took the initiatives from We.Trade. We.Trade, the CEO of Rabobank, showed it, but I'm going in depth with the architect, the system architect, and the product owner. So interesting interview there. Now, something else about all that finance and blockchain. I met Bert, and Bert drove a Hyundai Ioniq for 6 months. And I'm talked to him about how is the range doing? How do you like how he lives in Den Helder? He lives in the top of the country, and I asked him how did he like it? A review of somebody who has experienced with the Hyundai for 6 months. So that's it. Please, there's so many videos. It's 10 hours of the conference. Everything is open. We will talk about it the whole summer because every speaker was special. But take a look. And see you next week with a whole bunch of new videos, because there is so much interesting innovation going on. Bye!